Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, where we tackle critical issues at the crossroads of law, ethics, and technology. I'm Ronel David Esquera, your host, joined by my co-hosts, Johan Zach Lagarde, Jade Eugenio, and Yud Ebolde. Today, we're unpacking a landmark case from the Philippines, Cadahas versus People. This 2022 Supreme Court decision steered significant debates about data privacy and its role in ensuring justice. If you've ever wondered how privacy laws apply in criminal cases, this episode is for you. Let's dive in.
Absolutely. The Cadas case isn't just about one man's conviction. It's about the larger implications for privacy rights in the digital age. Can evidence obtained from someone's private social media account be admissible in court? What happens when justice and privacy collide? These are the questions we'll explore today.
We'll break down the facts of the case, the Supreme Court's reasoning, and the ethical and legal concerns it raises. By the end, you'll have a deeper understanding of how laws like the Data Privacy Act are applied in complex scenarios.
So grab a coffee or settle in wherever you're listening. This is going to be a thought-provoking discussion.
Let's start with a quick rundown of the case. On July 11, 2022, the Philippine Supreme Court made public its decision in Cadahas versus People. This case involved a man convicted of child pornography based on evidence obtained from his Facebook Messenger account. Johan, could you explain how the evidence was accessed?
Sure. The evidence, photos, and messages was accessed by the victim's mother with the help of the victim. She then handed it over to law enforcement. The accused argued that this violated his right to privacy and the evidence should be inadmissible. But the Supreme Court ruled otherwise, citing the Data Privacy Act.
The court's reasoning was twofold. First, they stated that the constitutional protections of privacy are designed to guard against government intrusions, not private actions. Second, they found the data processing lawful under the DPA because it was necessary to determine criminal liability and protect lawful rights.
This position didn't sit well with everyone. Critics argued that the ruling overlooked key provisions of the DPA and left important questions unanswered. For example, should a mother's action be treated differently from those of law enforcement? And does the DPA even apply to private individuals? These are the issues we'll unpack next.
This case opens up a can of worms when it comes to privacy, ethics, and legal interpretation. Let's start with the application of the Data Privacy Act. Johan, what's the controversy here?
Great question. Critics argue that the court's reliance on Section 19 of the Data Privacy Act, which limits data subjects' rights in criminal investigations, was incomplete. They didn't consider Sections 4, 12, and 13, which outline the lawful basis for data processing. This omission raises questions about whether the evidence was truly admissible under the DPA.
Another issue is the reasonable expectation of privacy. The court stated that the accused had no expectation of privacy because he had shared his account access with the victim. But this test is tricky. How does it align with the DPA's provisions? And does sharing account access mean forfeiting all privacy acts?
Exactly. Then there's the mother's rule. The court dismissed her as a personal information controller under the DPA, framing her actions as personal or household activities exempt from the law. But should private individuals be exempt when their actions involve sensitive personal data? That's a critical ethical question.
And speaking of sensitive data, the court hinted that the evidence involved sensitive personal information but didn't clearly define it. This uncertainty could lead to inconsistent rulings in the future.
Right. The ethical implications here are huge. On one hand, we want justice for the victims of serious crimes. On the other hand, we need to protect individuals from potential abuses of their privacy. Striking that balance is no easy task.
So what does this case mean for future legal and ethical debates? Jade, let's start with the broader implications.
This ruling sets a precedent for admitting evidence obtained by private individuals in criminal cases. While this might help solve crimes, it could also encourage questionable practices, like individuals bypassing privacy laws to gather evidence.
Also exposes gaps in the DPA's legal framework. Without clear guidance, courts may interpret the law inconsistently, which could undermine public trust in privacy protections.
As technology evolves, these gaps might widen. Courts must adapt their interpretations to ensure that both privacy rights and justice are protected. This brings us to the critical question. Could the court have taken different approaches to address these issues more effectively? Let's discuss some of those now. Johan, let's start with you. What are some alternative approaches the Supreme Court could have considered?
One approach could have been emphasizing the personal, family, or household affairs exemption clause in the Data Privacy Act. The court could have clarified that the mother's action were exempt under this clause, which would separate her role as a private individual from the legal implications of the Data Privacy Act.
Another option could have been treating the mother's actions separately from those of law enforcement by analyzing her actions under Section 12 and Section 13 of the DPA. The court could have provided a clearer, more nuanced interpretation of lawful data processing.
Exactly. This distinction could have resolved concerns about inconsistent applications of privacy laws. It would also ensure that the lawfulness of each party's actions, whether private, individual, or law enforcement, was carefully assessed.
And that brings us to the larger challenge of balancing privacy and justice. Jade, how do you think courts can navigate this complex terrain?
It's all about balance. Courts must safeguard privacy rights to prevent the misuse of personal data while also ensuring that justice is served for victims of crimes. This requires clear and evolving legal frameworks, especially in cases involving private individuals and sensitive data.
Absolutely. Privacy laws must evolve alongside technology. Courts might also explore ways to address the ethical responsibilities of private individuals who handle sensitive data, ensuring both privacy and justice are preserved.
Ultimately, alternative rulings like this could help pave the way for better privacy frameworks. It's about adapting to the digital age while upholding ethical and legal principles. All right, let's wrap things up. What are the key takeaways from the Kadahas case? Johan?
For me, the big takeaway is the tension between protecting privacy and ensuring justice. This case shows how complex it is to balance these priorities, especially when dealing with serious crimes.
I agree. It also highlights the need for clear legal standards. Laws like the DPA must be refined to address the nuances of data processing and privacy in criminal contexts.
Remember the fact to guard the ethical dimension, private individuals must be cautious when handling sensitive data. Even if their intentions are good, we need to ask, where do we draw the line?
Well said. The Kadahas case is a reminder that the intersection of technology, law, and ethics is a constantly evolving space. As we navigate these challenges, it's crucial to keep justice and privacy in balance. Thank you for joining us on our podcast. Be sure to follow us for more thought provoking discussions. Until next time, stay informed and stay critical.